Chairman, thank the panel for taking the time to be here, and I'm glad that the committee today is considering the Rural Broadband Permitting Efficiency Act. I co-sponsored this bill when my colleague, Representative Curtis, introduced it because high-speed internet is no longer a luxury, but it is indeed a necessity. But too many communities in my district do not have access to broadband. Creating a categorical exclusion for permitting for broadband projects within an existing right-of-way is just common sense. There are too many stories of companies that have to get a full environmental review to be able to dig a trench along a roadway that's been recently repaved. Federal agencies often spray herbicides along the roads to be able to keep growth down, and yet broadband providers need to be able to worry about endangered plants. It doesn't make sense. Sometimes the delays are so long that the company either finds a way to be able to avoid federal land, which is more expensive, or abandon the projects altogether. Ms. Bloomfield, can you outline for us today the most urgent permitting reform needs in terms of broadband deployment?
So you are absolutely right. We've got 8 members in your congressional district, and it is a challenge. And you're spot on when you talk about how then folks have to build in that extra time and that extra, the barriers that they have to go through. And what we find is it's also very complicated because there's multiple agencies that are involved. And if you've got 20 employees, it's really difficult to figure out, which agency you need to deal with. And that's why the common sense approach you all are looking at with designating a lead agency, streamlining some of it, will actually go a long way.
Thank you. Permitting reform will go a long way toward being able to bring broadband to many communities in the West. And I'd also like to be able to get your thoughts on any other actions that Congress take to be able to incentivize the broadband build-out.
That is the multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I do mean that actually in all seriousness. I think the Congress, there was a one-time FCC action in the last couple of months that restored a significant amount of funding that had been cut through the Universal Service Program over the course of last year because of USF reforms and a budget control mechanism. That infusion into the system will go a long way. Folks are actually already starting to figure out what projects they thought they weren't going to complete that they will now complete. So I think that's good news. And again, you all in Congress with the Omnibus Bill created a broadband pilot project that will be run through USDA, where some of these reforms will also hand in glove work very nicely together, infusing more cash into the system, creating more business models, and then speeding the process along through regulatory reform.
Well, thanks, and I appreciate that. Critical for rural areas for economic development. It's not only going to be the permitting end of it, but being able to be creative in the private-public partnerships to be able to get these build-outs and make sure that we're holding those dollars that are going to be provided from the federal government truly not only transparent but accountable to make sure that they're achieving the end goal and not building out areas that are already well served. So thank you for your comments, Mr. Chairman, and unless you would like to take my time, I have no further questions.
Thank you.
I yield back.